An experience that is in a league of its own compared to other psychedelics. An ayahuasca trip report, posted by the user I'm With Crazy to the ayahuasca subreddit 7 years ago. Age, 34. Gender, male. Weight, 72 kilograms. Dose, 60 milliliters. Physical health, no known issues. Mental health, no known issues either. From my perspective, ayahuasca is categorized in a league of its own compared to other psychedelics and plant medicines. It takes you deep within your subconscious, showing you the most sacred parts of your soul. You walk away from the experience with tremendous insight after a night under its influence. And in total, I've had over 40 ceremonies with the Madre, this report being one of them. This night turned out to be the most intense, mind-blowing experience I have ever been through in my whole life. Don't use that description loosely either. It was transcendent on so many levels, but do not confuse transcendence with grace. Sometimes, our most difficult experiences are also our most rewarding. I think there were 6 people total in the ceremony this evening, which took place at a small flat in the suburbs of London. All but one were newcomers to this whole new world of Aya. As we all found our places, we glanced at each other nervously, wondering just what the hell we got ourselves into. The shaman gave us a quick overview of what to expect. Ask for anything you want to see, they said. They also explained the process of purging and how it represents the physical and spiritual removal of negative matter from your body. This reminded us that purging is seen as a victory in an Aya ceremony, something that was a little hard to understand at first, until I ended up experiencing my first purge later this evening. Do not be afraid if you have to use the toilet, they added. Many people experience diarrhea during the ceremony. Luckily for us, nobody had to run to the John all night, which I must say was slightly relieving. Eventually, we exhausted the shaman with our overly concerning questions, and they announced the ceremony would now begin. A tea candle was lit, and the lights turned off. The room was so dark that even the air felt heavy. With calculated reverence, the shaman began to sing to the bitter brown brew to bless it before being consumed. Once they were finished, they poured neatly measured portions of the brew into tiny glass cups for each of the participants. The cups were distributed to each person ceremoniously. As I took my cup, I sat back and brought it to my lips. Even from here, I could smell the magic behind the liquid concoction. I was told that it's important to set an intention before you drink, and being mindful of my manners, I decided it might be a good idea to actually do that. No sense in diving headfirst into the underworld without a little good luck for good measure. I simply want to understand, I told myself, and my little cup of suede liquid. I didn't know what I was hoping to achieve by simply asking for understanding, because now that I think about it, that statement leaves a lot of room for slightly terrifying things to occur. You want an understanding of evil spirits? Well, you asked for it. To be honest, I felt like I was ready to receive a deeper understanding of my life and the direction it was heading. Figuring this intention was actually worthy of the ceremony, I sat up and took a deep breath. I then closed my eyes and gulped down the liquid. As it made its way to my stomach, my entire body began to shiver. I could feel the frequency of my body begin to vibrate slightly higher. I wasn't sure if this was me shivering from the foul taste, or if the brew actually made a shock to my system. Either way, I decided there was nothing I could change now, so I lit myself a mapacho, an indigenous cigarette with pure tobacco. and I sat back as I let the medicine take effect. As my eyes closed, the drumming began. Over the next few minutes, the rhythm sped up a bit as the Aya started to take effect. I began to feel the beat of the drum was in harmony with the heartbeat of the universe. The synchronicity grew as the medicine pulsed through my veins, and soon, I felt my entire body spiritually harmonize with everyone else in the room. Connectedness, oneness. These are common themes when one is under the influence of Aya. Little by little, another dimension began to gently pierce my veil of consciousness. Out of the corner of my eye, I began to see slight visions of fractals, or what I was later told was sacred geometry, in all these bright neon colours, all moving in a very organised manner. I felt like I was looking into a cosmic kaleidoscope. The shapes began to shift, taking on different forms. I was beginning to feel like I was diving into the hidden depths of an unknown sea, discovering things I never knew existed. The creatures I saw along the way would morph right before my eyes. It felt weird. It was like I wasn't supposed to look at them in their true form or something. I figured it's never a good idea to piss off a spirit of any kind, so I made sure not to stare at them for too long. Besides, staring is rude anyway. As this cacophony of lights and strange forms began to settle into the world around me, I could feel some familiar memories from my past rising to the surface of my consciousness. It was like watching a tiny air bubble escape from the bottom of the ocean floor. It's hard to imagine that something so small becomes so large by the time it reaches the surface. And as I discovered tonight, emotions also behave in a similar way. Just in case you're wondering, it's impossible to try and trap the bubble when it's on its way to the surface, literally and metaphorically. So here's a bit of advice. Just let whatever comes up make its way to the top. Any efforts contrary to that effect are futile, and just make things more difficult to say the least. You'll understand what I'm talking about after your first or second ceremony with Aya. The emotions that were rising finally took on the form I was able to see. I was being shown the very specific examples of how I'd hurt other people in the past. I saw how I'd made them cry for one reason or another, on purpose or by mistake. But each of these events all played out in front of me with absolute clarity. From my present state of here and now, I was transported back in time. I literally was watching my life on TV in reverse. The same way it appears when you rewind a video cassette tape. Everything was quickly moving in reverse, with lines of static reverberating up and down along the screen. And then suddenly, everything stopped, and a cosmic finger reached out from the darkness and hit play on the video of my life. I saw faces floating all around me, turning in slow circles around me while rotating clockwise. I noticed that these were all familiar faces. There were no strangers around me whatsoever. A message was received that said that these are all the people you've hurt in your life at some point or another. Whether you meant to or not, they have felt pain from you in this life. I was perplexed, shocked, devastated. I saw the faces of those that I knew had been hurt by me, and then others that I did not know I'd hurt. But then I would quickly understand how I had inadvertently hurt them in the first place. I saw the many breakups I'd been through, ones that I initiated. I saw the numerous people I've had to fire over the years in my business. Fights with close friends from high school, fights with my parents, fights with my adult friends. I saw the devastating breakup in high school I went through that felt like a bomb had been dropped. I saw myself sitting in my room on my phone, listening as my girlfriend began to tell me she had found someone else, and that it was over. I remember saying nothing. I simply hung up the phone and fell to the floor in agony as I started to sob for what felt like an eternity. I was reliving every emotion imaginable. The faces reconvened together again all around me, and tears began streaming down the faces, leaving little droplets on the ground below. Each face was rotating at different speeds, and as every visage made its way back to the centre, it would stop for a brief moment and stare at me, asking me why. Why did you do this to me? All of a sudden, the faces quickly veered away to the peripheral of my vision, as if some kind of magnet was pushing objects away in reverse polarity. In the distance, there was a fanciful Chinese dragon that began making its way towards me, dancing through the darkness like a dolphin playfully swimming along the surface. As it approached me, its head turned towards my face and cocked slightly to the left. Tears began to pour from its eyes. The volume of tears increased and began to feel like a waterfall was coming from both of its eyes. It was by this time that I had also begun to sob profusely, feeling the pains of the emotions that I was reliving, yet still trying to understand the meaning of what I was being shown. "You don't have to be so hard on others," said a voice. "People do things their own way. They do them different than you do. But the end result is always the same. You do not need to show emotional force to get people to do things that way that you want them done." I just felt like a load of bricks was dropped on me. It felt strangely liberating though. It was as if a foundation built from the past had been destroyed. One that desperately needed to go. And now, the ayahuasca had rebuilt my foundation, brick by brick, in a way that would be better engineered for what my future holds in store for me.